Not on in the back, so Allison went back there too.
Testing.
I don't think. Testing. No.
Testing. Pelletary 1.
They turned off the latest. They got that back on. She must have switched or pulled the wrong thing. Do you know how to do that? Allison's back there. Go ahead, Pat.
I'm not on TV.
No.
Testing. Where's Renda when you need him? Live. Oh, okay.
So they're trying to figure out the microphones. Jeff's, I guess, not here.
But it sounds like they can hear us on TV or on YouTube.
Testing.
That's what they're saying. I don't know if that's this one's not on either.
Still turn it on and talk while we're talking. Yeah, we're gonna still attempt to do so.
Please call to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Remain standing for a moment of silent meditation. Oh, I need a motion to come out of exec first. Mr. Reynolds, second by Alex Krill. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Allison for the administrative oath of newly elected board members.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Can we please have our newly elected board members come to take their oath, please? Okay, please raise your right hand. I state your name.
I,
Stephanie Dudley, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of board member
and will faithfully discharge the duties of board member
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Okay, and at this time, we would like to call up Superintendent Dr. Pelletieri for his oath. Chichi, what do you do? Okay. So if you can raise your right hand. I state your name.
That always mentions that. Okay, I, Christopher Pelletieri,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear. I have to wait for you.
that I will support the Constitution
That I will
of the
support
United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York.
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of superintendent
And I will faithfully discharge the duties of superintendent
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Perfect. Okay, so at this time, we need to elect a temporary chairperson. Ms. Pickowitz? No, you can do it if you want, and you would just take over to take the nominations for president.
Okay, so I need any nominations for president. Mike Isernia,
I nominate Robert Scavo.
and we need a second.
Yes. Are there any other nominations for president?
Meredith.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Reynolds. I'm sorry, I know you don't know that I'm doing this, but I really do feel like we need a change in leadership. Mr. Scavo, I think you're great, but your leadership over the past year, there have been a couple of questionable moments. And I think that Mr. Reynolds would really bring a lot to the table, a little bit of new blood. And he seems to be a born leader, although we don't always agree on everything. He is very fair, and he always does his research. So I nominate Mr. Reynolds.
We need a second.
Can I have a second for that nomination?
I'll second the nomination.
Okay, any further nominations for president? Okay, so we will vote on Mr. Robert Scavo. Can you raise your hand for ayes? Once they're nominated and there's a second, it's accepted.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So Mr. Scavo, you can take over. I state your name,
I, Robert Scavo,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of President
faithfully discharge the duties of President
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Okay, brings us to nomination for Vice President. Nomination for Vice President.
I'd like to nominate Sabrina Pickowitz for vice president.
Any second for that? Carlo? Okay, any other nominations for Vice President? No? Okay. By show of hands, support of this resolution, Ms. Pickowitz, raise your hand, please. Unanimous. Congratulations.
Okay. Raise your right hand. I state your name,
I, Sabrina Pickowitz,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of Vice President
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of Vice President
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Okay, item 4 is appointment of officers, District Clerk of the Board of Education. Any motion? Ms. Isernia, second. Ms. Stephanie Volpe. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. I'll come over and read your oath. I state your name. Solemnly swear. That I will support the Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the State of New York. And I will faithfully discharge. the duties Item D is District Treasurer, the motion. Roll, second. On the salary, questions and discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item C, Executive. Item C, Deputy Treasurer, any motion, please? Mr. Reynolds, second. Volpe, questions and discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Item 5, consent agenda 8S. Appointments, any motion, please? Mr. Attorney, next on the salary. Questions or discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Six is on the bottom of page 9, recommendation to the consent agenda A through D. Any motion, please? Mr. Attorney, second by Mr. Down. Questions or discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Item 7, designations, consent agenda A and B. Motion. Okay, item 7, second, moved by Sarnia. Questions and discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No votes. Opposition? Motion carries. Item 8, bonding personnel. Any motion, please? Mr. Sarnia, Ms. Pickowitz, questions and discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 9, the policy committee, the consent agenda E through P. Again, let's take a look at the bottom of page 2. Any motion, please? Say Sarnia, second, Ms. Down. Questions or discussion?
Question, Rob?
Yes.
On letter J, I'll ask Chris, I guess. On letter J, if you want to get there. I've questioned this every year. I'm going to continue to question it. I'm just not comfortable. Other than the air cards, that's separate. Who off this list is having their cell phone paid for by the taxpayers of our community? Yeah, this is a pretty, I mean, there's no principals, there's none of the cabinet, but I'm confused as to, it says cell phones and air cards. Almost everybody has an unlimited plan at these points. So whose cell phone do we still pay for? And why? I know. So it's cell phones and air cards, or is there certain ones getting certain things? Okay. I mean, respectfully, like your phone is on 24/7. You're not on this list. The cabinet, we have principals here. We shouldn't do this. It's just where I die on the hill by myself, but I just don't think we should do it.
Is there any legal concerns so far as the use of private phones? As Mr. Figueroa said, I use my private phone. Am I at risk, and therefore they're not in certain instances? And again, I apologize to everyone. Our mics don't seem to be working here, but they are working for the live stream, so we'll continue to use them, and people are working through it. So I apologize. That was the reason for our delay at the outset as well. Chris?
I don't think there's any legal concerns, whether you use your own phone or whether you use a district phone. Either way, I think the same principles apply in terms of text messages. Either way, things could be subject to FOIL, regardless of whether it's your personal phone if you do a business or a school phone. So I don't know that there's any legal significance to it.
Slattery?
So if you use your personal phone, would you get reimbursed for the time you're using your phone or a percentage of your phone that you're using for business calls? Like if I use my personal phone for business, could I bill my employer for the times that I'm using? You know what I mean? Like if it's 9 to 5 and I'm using it strictly for work calls, does that percentage get billed to my employer?
I think it, as Alex said, I think we all have unlimited use. It's not like the old days where we used to pay, and it seems like we paid a lot, depending on how much we used it. We don't have that anymore, so nobody bills back their employer for the time that they spend using their phone for the percentage. I have not seen that.
Just a quick, so,
Yeah, Ms. Reynolds?
but the opposite, in the corporate world, they're going to give you the phone. It's their phone. You can use it for personal, because I'm looking at the titles of some of these folks, right? And they look like they've got to be on call 24/7, right? We got security people, mechanics, crew leaders, right? Things like that. So that's perhaps the logic as to why we're doing this, right? So.
Ms. Iseri?
That, I was going on the same path. These gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, are on this list are basically on call 24/7. So the expectation is they're going to answer this phone at 2:00 in the morning because we have a flood, and that's, I think, the basis why we provide the phone, right? I mean, that makes sense. I see that all the time in my facilities too. The facilities people have phones. So,
Any other questions? Yeah, Ms. Volpe?
So unrelated to the cell phone, there is one appointment on the Special Education Committee that I'm not in favor of. So do I break that out or just abstain from the whole thing?
What letter is that?
Number 3 on the physicians on letter C. I'm good with Dr. Kronberg. I'm not so good with Dr. Nussbaum. He just happens to be part of that committee, so on page 14.
C. So C number 3.
C number 3.
No, you're gonna make a motion to take item C out. That would have to be voted on separately. So
So that would be a motion.
Okay, so
All right,
we'll make
so
a motion to take
before we
that
do that, any other questions about item J, Mr. Picarillo? The only thing I'd ask is that, to Mr. Picarillo's request, is that we get an idea as air cards. I'm not sure why we would have air cards if everything's at 4G and 5G.
Yeah.
And it-
Yeah,
that might
I
be
don't know if
just
it's like a
cost.
laptop where they drive around, they need it, that's different.
Yeah.
That's for work, that's different. I'm just talking about if we're giving somebody a cell phone and they're using it for both personal and business, I think principals are on call 24/7. Chris, the cabinet, we have multiple people. I mean, I just don't think that Joe Blow, the taxpayer, should be paying for it, that's all.
Okay, so Meredith, yeah, you can make your motion.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to pull out number C, letter C.
Okay, so item 9C, we need a motion to pull out item 9C to vote on it separately. Meredith, any second? I got Ms. Isernia, all in favor? Opposed? So we have a motion on policy committee consent agenda A through P with the exception of C. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One opposition?
No, no, they just couldn't, they're gonna vote. on
No,
this.
we're gonna vote on it separately. Alex.
They're gonna vote on it separately.
All right, so motion's carried, one abstention. Alex Picarello. Okay, so item C, appointment of 2022, 23, 24 Committee on Special Education. Any motion, please? Okay, Ms. Isernia, second. Ms. Stephanie Volpe. Questions or discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
One opposition, two oppositions.
So what were we actually voting on? C, taking 3 out?
We took the whole item, we voted on C separately.
So this was just for C, that's voted.
You're a no? So it's 3 no's. Okay.
Rob, can I ask why? Is there information that,
Well, I
Some of
mean,
us have
you're getting
that-
into an area now where,
You
you know, it
can't-
could be personnel.
Right.
And it'd be more suited for the
Okay.
back room. But you certainly could ask back there. It could, no, it was, no, it's passed. It was a 6-3 vote. So item C is passed. Okay, item 10, okay, is we're going to come back to our regular meeting. Okay, so item 11 is we have the Sachem Pride and presentation. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Pelletieri to recognize 2 special young men that are classified as student heroes. So, Dr. Pelletieri?
Mr. Scarborough, thank you very much. Very excited to do this. I'm going to ask Mr. Watson, our principal at Hiawatha Elementary, to come up here and introduce our youngsters. We had a pretty scary incident earlier this month. Well, actually, it's July, so late June. And a couple of kids sprang into action. And I immediately wanted us to recognize them, their families, bring them up here and talk with them. So, Mr. Watson, if you don't mind introducing our youngsters, bringing them up and their families and just talking through what took place.
Absolutely. Good evening. Thank you for having me. Yes.
It's part of this whole issue we're having.
So thank you for having me. I'd like to invite Dylan Bessemer and Joseph Pinero up to the podium. Great job. So that afternoon that we got the phone call that no principal ever wants to hear, or a parent that a bus was in an accident, myself, Ms. Zanesto, and Ms. Nicosia, of course, get in the car and race down without causing any more accidents. And we got down to the bus, and unbeknownst to us, all of our students were sitting on they had commandeered the front lawn of a neighbor. Everyone was safe, and our 5th graders, both Dylan and Joseph, turns out that they were the heroes of the day. They enacted our typical bus drill and opened all the emergency exits and doors and got all of our children out safely. And in turn, then when a couple of kids were a little bit upset and scared and crying, they consoled them. They pulled out their games that they had brought in for extra time and consoled the kids. So kudos to them. We're really proud of them. Great job, gentlemen. Great job.
Yeah. So Dylan and Joseph, you didn't come running up here right away when we called your names. You're not excited to be out in front of everybody for this? No? Well, let me first off say that my son, when he has to wear a shirt on his collar, he used to call that a handsome shirt. Because my wife would say to him when he was a young man, when we put these collared shirts, she'd say, "Oh, you're so handsome. You look so handsome." And so he'd say, "I don't want to wear a handsome shirt." So I appreciate you wearing your handsome shirts tonight out here in front of everybody. So give me a quick definition of what a hero is. And I don't mean Spider-Man swinging from the rooftops or Captain America slinging his shield. I'm talking about what's a hero to you? Both of you give me a quick definition.
A hero would
Nice and
usually
loud, buddy.
save people who are in need and who really need help, because heroes don't all wear capes. They all always help everyone they can and do whatever they can to help the world.
Did you practice that? I mean, I didn't. All right, you did a nice job. Go ahead. Nice and loud.
Thing as him. Not all heroes wear capes. And a hero is when, if something like tragic happens, they always try to like help the situation as fast as they could.
So thank you so much. So we had a real concern, right? A bus driver had a medical issue. It caused an accident that took place. Thank goodness there were no other cars or anything involved. And she turned and kind of hit an embankment. And I'm sure that scared the heck out of everybody on the bus, including you guys. But yet you two jumped up and seized that moment to help like little 5-year-olds, little kindergartners and first graders. Because I saw them, because we ran over there, Ms. Trumbetta and I and everyone else that could possibly get over there. And I did find the principals and Miss Ernesto and Miss Nicosia and kids were just sitting on the ground, talking with their friends, playing games. Miss Florio was there consoling a young lady as well. So why did you two step up into this role instead of just kind of sitting back?
We realized that we're the 5th graders on the bus, and we're older than everybody else, and we're responsible.
That's really great. Really great. So we have certificates for both of you. I want to thank you so much. I want to thank your parents for raising great kids and your teachers for helping being part of that raising, right? It takes a village, and being a part of the Sachem family. Really proud of you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay.
Good job, guys.
Good job.
I want to thank moms and dads and sisters for coming up as well, and certainly appreciate that. You guys do not have to stay unless you really want to learn a lot about the inner workings of a school system. And well, we're going to do a lot more business. So, yeah, jump out while you can, I think.
Great job, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, item 12 is the approval of minutes. Any motion, please? And Ms. Esternia, second. By Ms. Stephanie Volpe. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. And 13, no visitors. Item 14 is business items. We have consent agenda A through D. Any motion, please? Okay, Ms. Baumann, second. Ms. Esternia. All right, questions or discussions?
Just one,
Yep.
Rob.
Yep.
So on this, I know, Michelle, when we went over on the audit committee, so this, the claims audit report just had the certain invoices that were paid over 30 days. So that has been corrected or correction plan in place for that.
Yes, well, sometimes it's actually not even the fault of the
Right,
area
so
because
that's
we
what-
don't get the invoice until after
Time.
30 days. Sometimes it gets mailed to one department or building, and by the time it makes it to us, but we do try to get them paid. within the
Right.
30
So it
days.
doesn't necessarily mean anything to do with your office. It has to do with getting sometimes the invoices from the vendors.
Correct.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Item 15 is action items. We'll do one at a time. Item 15A is the mascot advisory resolution. Any motion, please? Ms. Stephanie Volpe, any second? Any second? Ms. Laura Slattery. Any discussion? Any discussions? Okay, Mr. Picarella?
All right. So I'm a no right now. I'm a no. Okay. The state's whole email back to us that we need to regulate ourselves and we need to police ourselves. And if we're policing ourselves, then if it's up to me, then we're not changing anything. And we can do, some other things in the buildings to celebrate different cultures that we need to. But in today's paper, students fall further behind grades 3 through 8 math. Great Neck wrestles with armed intruder. Smartphones and mental health, ransomware and cybersecurity and children's data being let go. This is all stuff that we need to spend money on. This is not something that I'm spending any money on, and I would never approve us spending a dime of it. We have actual important things, not made up crazy things from New York State, and I'm not going to be a part of their fiasco of a government that they call themselves. So I'm a hard no.
Any other? Ms. Slattery?
So last time I was a definite no also on the resolution. And for the reasons that Alex just said, we're here for education for our students. That's our number one priority. But what we did ask our superintendent to do is to go back to New York State. And we were just named by Newsday at that point. We were never, ever, ever directed by the state or anybody from the state that we need to do anything at that point. So now I believe, and Mr. Venator, if you could jump in and just clarify, we're still not saying that there's anything wrong with our arrow. We're still not saying that there's anything wrong or anything that we need to change right now. But what this resolution is saying is if directed to, we will hire our own committee to determine how the changes will be made and start a discussion with New York State. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, and we also reserve the right in the resolution in the event that you have a disagreement with SED or the Board of Regents concerning your logo or your mascot, et cetera. In the resolution, you reserve the right to initiate a legal challenge if the board so chose to go in that direction.
Because again, before when we've done legal challenges with the state that not everybody was on board, it was because to spend taxpayer money on that would not be in our fiduciary responsibilities. But changing this would spend millions of dollars on taxpayer money, which as fiduciaries of our taxpayers, of our students, we have to do what we can to protect the assets of our schools, to protect the education of our students over this. So in light of that, I would say, litigation, if we're told that it's going to cost us millions of dollars to take something that we're not sure is even offensive down, that then we can litigate just by adopting this does not stop that.
That's correct. That's
Thank you.
correct.
Any other questions? Meredith?
I also believe that this is a waste of time and energy. I believe that there are things out there that are offensive, and we should always take that seriously. We should always consider how other people feel. But I do feel like I know the State Department is telling us that we have to adopt this resolution, but I feel by adopting a resolution, you are saying that you're open to what they have to tell you, how they're going to wag their finger and tell you what you have to do. And I just feel like I can't be on board with that. I feel like we don't have a mascot. We have a logo that is an arrow. An arrow can be that you are headed up in the right direction. An arrow can be that you're straightforward and doing the right thing. It has, in my mind, no other meaning. And I just feel like if we adopt this resolution, we are saying, yes, you've already told us we have to adopt the resolution. We're open to doing that. And I just feel like we don't challenge them enough. Alex brought up some really good points. I'd rather concentrate on mental health. I'd rather concentrate on how far behind our children are. I'd rather concentrate on a million other ways to educate our children. I'd rather concentrate on educating our children on the indigenous people of the United States and how important they are to our history instead of trying to erase them from our history. So I can't be on board with that. Thanks.
Any other comments? None.
Dr. Pelletieri, any feedback besides what you received from the state in email? Any conversations today that you can share in open session?
I did attend a meeting today with several other school districts. It's interesting, 12 of the 60 school districts that are impacted by this regulation, specifically 12 of the 60 are here on Long Island. 8 are represented by just 2 of our state senators, and had a conversation with those folks today, along with several of these other districts and superintendents and other folks from those districts. And again, a real concern that we all have is communication with the state, feedback, having that. We mentioned this several times. He wrote a letter to the state as well. Please sit at the table with us. Let us understand. Let us talk to you about our history here and how we can recognize our history appropriately and respectfully and not erase it. But we haven't gotten that opportunity yet. We're going to continue to push. Those state senators are going to try to help us to continue to push for that, because we are all a great deal in the dark in terms of what specifically we need to do. We have been put on notice. I was asked to do that. We do have an email from them that does show their concern. And so I think we need to probably move towards adopting this, but I don't think it makes us do anything concrete in the immediate. I think we have to let this play out a bit more. And certainly the state senators I spoke with today are anxious to get NYSCD folks and perhaps even local indigenous tribes folks, people to work with us and see what it is that we need to do as we go forward. But I think the state is on record, and now clearly we are in terms of that email that we received, that we need to act. Vinny?
Thank you. Yeah. So question for Mr. Venator, because part of what the state continues to do is say, if you don't do this, we're going to remove your officers, meaning our superintendent, perhaps the cabinet, as well as board members. You can remove all the board members. We're volunteers, but we've got some pretty talented people running this district. So are we exposed by them coming after us if we don't resolve this, approve this resolution? I mean, it's always the threat, right? It's we're going to remove your offices and hold back state funding, right?
It's, it's always a possibility.
Yeah.
I'd say it's unlikely, but, there's also the issue of state aid. Clearly, that's something that they throw out that's on the table. So, you could adopt a resolution. I don't think it binds you. I don't think it serves as an acknowledgement that, Sachem is implicated by this rule. You read the other school districts, that feel similar to Sachem. There may be retaining counsel to challenge it. They adopted the resolution just as an insurance policy. So, at the outset, they're not going to get hit with the loss of state aid, the threat to remove the superintendent. So that's the benefit of at least adopting a resolution. See how this plays out, have some conversations with their mascot advisory committee to see what what they're suggesting needs to be done or doesn't need to be done. So the resolution really buys you some time to gather more information and then make a determination at some point how you want to go forward.
Right. Thank you.
Mr. Picarello?
Mr. Venator, I'm just confused by this resolution. It basically says that we're on board with you until we don't agree with you anymore, then we're going to sue you. That doesn't sound like a resolution. A resolution saying we're going to do this. Passing something and saying, well, we'll play nice until you say something we don't like, and then we're going to sue you. How does that work? How does that hold up in court? How does that work?
Well, the regulation requires us to adopt a resolution. And the regulation requires, well, it's self-regulating. Each district is supposed to make a determination whether or not they may be implicated. And now we know that, that we may be implicated. And therefore, by adopting a resolution, essentially saying, if we're required, because no determination has been made by the state that Sachem is implicated in one way or the other. But if we are required, we will we'll form a committee and we'll get a plan together to determine how we're going to resolve the issues that we need to resolve. So it's a procedural step that covers you initially for the threat against the loss of state aid, the removal of your superintendent, things like that.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what I said last time we had a meeting, that and now with more information, they just said to self-regulate. If our opinion, or at least the majority of the board's opinion, is that we don't fall in the category of these other schools, then why would we do that? If they came down and said, yes, you are going to do what we say, and if you don't, X, Y, Z, but they haven't said that. They said self-regulate. So in my opinion, self-regulate means if you think something, then you have to change it. Some of us don't feel that way. So why would we? I understand what you're saying, but why would we do it if we don't feel like we are in this group? And this is why I voted no on Newsday, by the way, because they ran a fake article with a fake list and they made it up themselves, and I can't get on board with them. So that's why I'm no to Newsday.
I think the reason, Alex, is that in the event that SED ultimately determines that some part of your mascot or any of your symbols, whether it's an arrow, whether it's the feathers, if they determine that any part of that has to be adjusted, altered, removed, etc., if that determination is made and we don't challenge it, and then they go back to the fact that you didn't adopt a resolution, and they use that as a procedural step to say, you know what, we're going to take away X amount of dollars of state aid from the Sachem Central School District. Laura Slattery?
Okay, so for me, what I think is different than last time is we never got an email from the state saying we're naming Sachem in this. So now our superintendent has received it. And again, this is just saying we're putting together our own committee if you direct us to change something. So we're going to form our own committee who's going to decide how we change it, what we change, and what we do. I'm not necessarily opposed to that. If we keep an arrow and not have feathers, or we just have an S inside the arrow, I'm not necessarily opposed to that. I was opposed 100% last time that we were not directed by the state. Now our superintendent reached out to the state as we asked him to. He has been directed that we have to accept this resolution, which again, I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but if the state comes down and says, Sachem, you're one of the schools that have to change, are we going to put together a committee? Have we talked about that? I think that's something that we may have to do. And so I'm not opposed to that. If they say every school in Sachem has to be changed, everything that you do has to be changed, if they say you have to spend millions of dollars changing your fields, changing this, I'm opposed to that, because millions of dollars should be spent on education, not our arrow. So I would be 100% opposed to that. But if they say next time you put in a turf field, can you do an arrow without this? I wouldn't be necessarily opposed to that. So that's why I actually, although 100% not thinking that Sachem is in the same category as the other schools because they put our superintendent on notice and this is his recommendation. I'm going to support our superintendent on this. And that's my reasons
Meredith?
and my thought process.
So basically what it's saying is in the event that NYSID determines that Sachem Central School District is required to change its team names, the Flaming Arrows, or is required to change the district's arrowhead logo or any other logo in accordance with the recently enacted restrictions, that we would put together the committee and move forward. But isn't it, so to me, I feel like they want us to adopt a resolution saying when Big Brother tells us what to do, we're going to do what they tell us to do. But yet we're always told that we have to do what NYSID says, because if we don't do it, whether it was masks or logos or names, if we don't do it, then they're going to turn around and threaten to take away our state aid and threaten to take away our superintendent and threaten to kick the whole board out. So this is, to me, it's totally redundant. I feel like if you're adopting a resolution because they said so, you're doing one more thing because they said so. When is it that the taxpayer gets to say, because we said so, because we're the people with the purse strings? They work for us. We don't work for them. They use our tax money. So why is it that we are constantly turning around and saying, yes, sir, we'll do that. Okay, no problem. That's why I can't get on board with a resolution. I can't adopt a resolution that says, I will do everything you tell me to without question because you told me to, with my tax dollars. Sorry.
Any other comments? I'm just going to throw my 2 cents. Oh, Mike, Mr. Attorney, again.
So my concern really boils down to whether or not the Board of Regents actually has the authority by which to enact this regulation. Are they actually statutorily empowered to do so? That could take a couple of years of litigation. I mean, I think it's an up in the air question. I mean, they're hinging it on DASA, but based on some recent Supreme Court cases, I don't think regulators are going to get the same deference that they used to get. So they might not be able to hang their hat on DASA as they're giving them the authority to do this. However, that's going to take a couple of years, at which point, if we follow suit with what they tell us to do, we could be jackhammering out the floors and then 3 years later find out, oh, they never really had the authority to do that. So that's my concern. There's no stay on this right now. So if we start down the path and we enact these things, it could take a few years for this to come to resolution. And meanwhile, we undid everything that we didn't have to actually undo. Here's my concern. So I'm going to abstain.
Just the feedback, Mike, but we're reserving the right to initiate a legal challenge to that, right?
True.
So,
but if you don't get a stay and they're allowed to proceed and then ultimately they lose on appeal or we lose on appeal, if they ultimately end up not having the authority to do what they did, it could be 4 or 5 years from now.
So my biggest concern with this whole thing is the fact that the state came up with this unfunded mandate. It is probably one of the craziest ones that I've seen in the last 2 decades. Is that they didn't identify the schools themselves. They left that authority up to the individual districts. And what would have been much, much more clear for districts is if the state went through all of the logos and said, yes, these 15 schools have to comply. These schools don't have to comply. So it puts us in a position where our interpretation is different than what the state's telling us. But, the superintendent did get feedback from the state, David Frank, who is the person that's overseeing this whole thing. And he came back and said, well, clearly we think you might have an issue. You probably should adopt a resolution, which is why the recommendation is from the superintendents to do that. Look, I'll tell you right now, I mean, if we didn't have the option of entering litigation to sue the state, okay, and I think we're supposed to maybe even possibly meet with a law firm that was presented to us, I would be a hard no on this. But, the whole concept of, well, we're not going to do it, we're just not going to listen because the state's telling us we have to do it, we potentially could jeopardize a lot of people's careers and a lot of people's futures. So while I'm opposed to this whole unfunded mandate, I think at least we have that window of opportunity to litigate this and say, hey, you know what, whatever it takes for us to fight this and get a definite answer. But that's what. So that's my take on the whole thing. I mean, it's the recommendation of legal counsel.
Yes.
And it's the recommendation of the superintendent.
Yes.
Okay. So, any other discussions or comments or?
Rob, I'm just concerned that we sign our name to this, and then, like
No,
what Mike said, then it's already the first step of
Yeah.
being on board. That's what
Yeah.
my concern is
And I have the same concerns.
stay off the boat
Yeah.
for as long as we can and say,
Yeah.
we didn't know. We thought that we were not in this category.
Yeah.
That's our company line right now. That's in my opinion.
Okay.
And, Native Americans don't own feathers, by the way. That's the birds. So just so that's clear.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. So we have a motion and a second. So I'm just going to ask you to raise your hand. We'll just take a roll call. Okay. All in favor, raise your hand. We got 1, 2, 3. So Vinnie Reynolds, a yes.
Yeah, and it's just to protect our superintendent, our administration's careers. That's really where I'm headed.
And Stephanie Volpe is a yes. Matthew Bauman is a yes. Okay. No. Okay. Laura Slaughter is a yes. I'm a yes. All right. No's, raise your hand. All right. No's, Meredith Volpe. Okay. Alex Picarillo. Okay. And abstentions, Ms. Cernia. And I'm sorry, Sabrina Pickwitz. Okay. Okay. Motion to amend the order of the agenda. We're going to skip to 18 because there's a lot of people here and their families here to be approved for administrative positions. And then what we'll do is we'll come back to 16. If you don't mind. We're going to come
back
to it. If you don't mind, Mr. Icernia,
Okay,
right? We
so-
got a lot of family here tonight.
Okay, the motion, Ms.
Thank
Picarillo.
you. Thank you.
Second, Ms.
Thank you.
Slattery, all in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. So we're going to go 18. I need a
Thank you.
motion to approve personnel consent agenda A through J. Okay, Ms. Pickowitz, second by Mr. Picarillo. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. Unanimous.
Does that cover everyone that was here, Ms. Cable?
We actually have a probationary teacher here today as well.
Okay. Where was that? What number is that?
So we'll do that after this one.
We'll do that.
work
We'll go
backwards.
backward.
Okay, very good.
All right. So 18 has been adopted and approved.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So congratulations to our new administrators who are here in the audience tonight.
Kristen,
and
do you
their
want to
families.
identify
Thank you.
people?
You've been sweating out a few weeks. I didn't want you to sweat out a couple more hours potentially.
It's exciting when you have your family there to join
I
you,
did that
not
already.
just your own personal family, but the rest of your family here in Sachem. So we'd like to recognize here tonight, we have Lori Nesto. Lori Nesto is moving up into an AP position at High School North. She's been at Hiawatha as a teacher and also as a leader as a principal's aide. We also have joining us tonight 2 other assistant principals. We'll want to say from the outside, but certainly on the inside now, who are Kaylee Sedaris joining us for Sagamore. Welcome. And Christopher Wachowski, who's also joining us here as a secondary assistant principal. Although not here this evening, we do have Eric Neinhardt, who was approved this evening on the board agenda for the executive director position for special education. So we look forward to all of you in your new roles. Welcome and thank you and congratulations. If I could also acknowledge on this evening's agenda, we have the retirement of Mr. James Haran, Samoset principal here. We'd like to thank him for his years of service and all the work that he's done on the secondary level and wish him all the best in his retirement.
Thank you.
All right, well, we're going to work our way backwards. We're going to come to 17 because we know we have another person in the audience who's being approved tonight. So we have item 17. We have personnel support staff consent agenda A through J. Any motion? Ms. Volpe, second by Mr. Pickowitz. Ms. Pickowitz. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried.
Welcome, Courtney. So Courtney's coming to us with years of working with youngsters and the ENL population. Hands down, all of our 6 new folks, some of which have been with us for a few years and rose to the top this year, as well as Courtney, some of our other folks on the outside. You're just going to be a great asset to our team. We really look forward to having you on board. Welcome.
Okay, item 16 is personnel agenda, consent agenda A through X for teachers. Any motion, please? Okay, Ms. Isernia, second. All right, Alex Picarillo, questions or discussions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried.
That was 16. We're working backwards.
Back
We're gonna go to
15B. Okay.
Right.
So 15B, a request was made back in June to look at the agenda, look at the calendars for the upcoming year a little bit more closely, because we had certain months that had only one meeting in it. And given the fact that this year we had a really difficult time fitting in all of the presentations and fitting in the recognitions, I requested that the calendar be pulled off and just looked at again and maybe represented to the board so that we can close those gaps. So we weren't going 4 weeks without a meeting, thus causing us to be here until 1 o'clock in the morning. There's been several meetings with recognitions and with presentations and an exec session where we're here until 1:45, 1 a.m. So in your packet is a proposed calendar. If everybody wants to pull out, you put that in there. Okay. Questions or concerns about anything on here? Meredith?
Could we just explain to the public what the work sessions are? Because there's one in November and one in December, which would then make us have like from October 25th all the way through December 20th in between actual what is called regular meetings.
So Chris, I don't want to put you on the spot. Maybe you could kind of detail the difference between a work session and a regular session, if you know offhand. Otherwise, I could.
Well, every district does it differently, but in a lot of districts, the difference is that a regular meeting, you'll entertain motions and agenda items, et cetera, whereas a lot of districts, a work session, you don't really have all of that. You're discussing topics of interest. Okay. But that doesn't preclude you from a work session to have agenda items if you feel you need to.
So years ago, Meredith, we used to have work sessions and regular sessions, and where the work sessions were mostly presentations and student recognitions, propose updates on curriculum and things like that. No action was taken. But what started to happen is that because we're such a large district, we started to take action even at our work sessions. So they all turned into regular meetings. Nothing precludes you from having resolutions at a work session if we need to take action on an approval of a teacher or staff member or whatever the case is. The concept, I guess, behind work sessions is that some of our meetings would be a week apart because of how the way the schedules fell this year, the calendar fell this year. So, Dr. Pellettieri said, possibly we may not have anything to approve the following week. Maybe we'll turn it into a work session. So he actually came up with the concept of doing something like that.
And they're still open to the public, and the
They're
public's
still open to the
welcome
public.
to come. And
Traditionally, work sessions there's no public comment. We could have public comment at all of them. It's not a problem. You can call them all regular meetings if you want.
yeah. No, I just feel like from October 25th all the way to December 20th, that if we did do that, where there was work session, that it would be a very long span without public comment.
Like I said,
Some
we
people
could
might welcome that.
Yeah,
we could have public comment at all of them. Doesn't matter what.
I'd even jump in and say that the December 6th one could be a regular session, seeing as it is weeks apart from the one prior. So why don't we make the Wednesday 6th a regular regular meeting, so we don't have that. We shouldn't have work sessions back to back. You're right, Meredith. I should have seen that.
My only other question is that, once again, November only has one meeting in it. So we're going 3 weeks before our next meeting, is to whether or not we want to add a second meeting in November. You can make one on the 1st and another one on the 15th. Originally, in the original one that was presented was, I have the original one.
It's the 8th and the 29th.
It was the 8th and the 29th. Do we want to go back to the 8th and the 29th? So we're adding second meeting to November. Stephanie?
Personally, I think we're getting into holiday season on the 29th. Even though it's technically a school day, I would prefer it before Thanksgiving week.
We could do it the 1st and the 15th.
Yeah.
That'll add that
And
second
then
meeting.
I wanted to bring up June. Can I bring up June? Could we do the 5th and the 12th?
Let's try
instead
to
of-
iron. You know what?
Yeah.
Why don't we go month by month?
Okay.
And just make sure we have everything straightened out rather than jump back and forth on things. That'll get confusing, I think, if you don't mind.
Rob, can I just put up one
Yeah,
concern?
sure.
So my only concern is, and I appreciate us trying to make this better, but we had a proposed calendar come out. It should have been fixed here. It shouldn't have been now. Now I have 2 copies. One proposed, but now this one's proposed and we're making changes on this one now. So why didn't we just do, like, this is a board meetings. Why didn't the board make the original changes? That's my first concern. And my second one is, we really need to make sure, and I appreciate the change because, and not that I'm distrustful of the administration, but we use that ASAP too much. Like, we need to have meetings. It's our job to approve people, not you guys approve them. And then 2.5 weeks from now, when we have our next meeting, that people have already started work. Now we're going to approve them. I think that's just not, unless of an emergency and an illness, God forbid, but we shouldn't be using it, in my opinion, as frequently as we do.
So we can start with July. I mean, in all honesty, me personally, I would have preferred to have kept the first proposed one, which was the 5th and the 19th. By moving this reorg meeting to the 12th, it creates a conflict for me on the 26th. But if the 26th is okay with everybody, I'll be out of state on the 26th.
I won't be here on the 26th.
So you won't be here? Yeah.
Actually, the 19th is not good either. So I'm out the next 2 Wednesdays.
Yeah.
So,
July.
July, we're gonna go month by month.
I could possibly be here on the 19th. It's going to be late, but the 26th, I'm definitely out.
So, yes.
I'm actually having surgery on the 25th, so I can try to be here for the 26th, but it's not guaranteed.
So do we want to move it to the 19th? Is the 19th better for everybody?
I'll be in the city, but I may be here late.
Maybe
That's
a
all.
little late.
Yeah.
Where are we at? Is everybody okay with that change?
Yeah, I mean, the 19th is a week from tonight. It's a week.
Is there business to do in a week from now?
There's always people to hire, I would imagine. But I'm not going to have a lot of information on things that we want to bring forward and discuss in board meetings, 7 days from now.
Chris, we haven't recognized the spring scholar athletes and things like that, right?
No, not yet.
Is that something that we could add before we get too
Well,
late?
we have it ready for next week. Will we play?
Well, how about August 2nd?
Yeah, we were planning on doing the spring athletes on the 26th.
Meredith?
August 2nd.
Always have to be on a Wednesday, or could we move it to a different day of the week?
And traditionally, we've done Wednesdays just for consistency. Yeah. I mean, the only one that's not on a Wednesday would be the budget vote.
Well, should we look at August 2nd? Because then the next one is August 16th. Can we wait 3 weeks? Does that give you?
Oh, instead of the second one in July.
Yeah.
Do August 2nd and August.
I'm going to just say right now, Mr. Reynolds, you mentioned something before about protecting the superintendent. I'm going to need
Yeah,
to
that's
protect
my
the
goal.
superintendent that night as well, because it's my sister-in-law getting married.
Oh, yes.
And I need to be there. I'm going to say that publicly for my wife and a family as well. So
That's
I
fine.
apologize, but
Nope, that's fine.
I am not. The rehearsal dinner is the 2nd. I have to be at that,
Yep,
and the
you
wedding
have
is
to.
the
That's
5th.
fine.
I'm on strict
I'll
orders.
rescind that comment then. I'll
Yeah.
pull it back.
No, don't. I apologize, but
If I
that's-
can just add, we also know that our retirement of Mr. Haran has come up. So that's an April 1st. So we need a principal in place. I'm sorry, August 1st, all these months. So we need to appoint for that as
Yeah,
well.
we wouldn't want to move past the 26th.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is Matthew? I can't be here the 29th. I definitely won't be here. I'll be in Maryland. 26th. Okay, moving it to the 19th?
We'll do whatever business is there. You know?
Well, did we already schedule the kids for the 26th?
If the kids are
Yeah, so
All right.
Okay.
You're going to have six board members on the 26th then, if
So we
Meredith
won't-
is a,
I mean, I will try my hardest to be here, but there's no guarantee.
Yeah.
I'm going into the hospital Tuesday,
You-
coming
you're
out.
not-
you
on
still have a
Wednesday.
quorum, you have enough, so that's fine. Just, yeah.
Okay. So we leave that to 26th. Okay. August 16th, 30th. Any problems? September 13th and 27th. Any issues? Okay. October 11th and the 25th. We're good. All right. November 15th.
Well, let's go back to, we proposed, what we just proposed, the 9th and the
What for November?
Yeah.
The 1st and the 15th.
1st and 15th.
So we're adding November 1st?
You'd be adding. Oh, it's a Tuesday?
November 1st.
It's Wednesday, right?
So it'd be 1 week between the 25th and the 1st. Right, so then you would make the 1st then a work session.
Right.
Or the 1st would be a work session. November 1, we would make a work session. What was that with 8/29? Why did we go with that? What?
What?
Oh, the 8th and the 29th? Yeah, why did we do that? There was concern about the 29th. Stephanie, did you raise a concern?
I think it was just a matter of getting the agenda together with that holiday break in there. It's a little tough to pull an agenda together when we're not in the offices.
November 1st, everybody's okay with?
So the 1st would be a work session, and then what was the second November date?
Will be the same, the 15th.
15th.
Make that a regular
That would
session.
be a regular meeting.
And then you have December 6th and the 20th. The 6th is already scheduled for a work session. So you're alternating.
So the 6th, we just said a few minutes ago, we'd make it a regular meeting. We said we'd make it a regular meeting, so we can keep it as a regular meeting.
Okay. December 20th, everybody's okay? 6th and 20th? All right, January 10th and 24th? 2 meetings? Good? Okay. Just going back to December, real quick. Do we double check to make sure none of it falls on any of the holidays?
Yeah. You did, yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that December 6th.
Yeah, I'm worried about.
First day
Passover
is the
and some
8th?
other- Right?
Okay. So 6th and 20th of December, we're good? Okay. January 10th and 24th, concerns? All right, February 7th and 28th, February 20th, questions or concerns? All right, March 13th, March 20th, we good?
So you see, that's a week apart. The 20th, we could make a work session perhaps.
Okay. Once again, just to clarify work sessions, there potentially could be business and resolutions on there. And we're going to keep every meeting open for public comment. Everybody's okay with that? Okay. April 3rd and 16th?
Yes.
Yes.
Because the votes is vote.
Yeah.
We had meetings 2 days in a row.
Okay, May 8th and 21st, conflicts? Okay, June 5th and June 20th.
I'm worried about testing for our students for you said June 20th tentative. Can we make it tentative the 12th? Yeah, the very last one.
19th is a holiday.
There's a holiday there. That's why it's Juneteenth. But it's also a lot of testing. Is there a way that we can make the tentative if we needed it the 12th? Oh. Yeah, it does say Wednesday. It's Thursday, June 20th.
June 5th is Sachem North's prom, so I definitely won't be here. Be
So the
seeing my
5th.
son off to the prom. Yeah.
All right, let's open up with June.
I mean, we don't have the region schedule yet, right? So, right. So could we tentatively move it earlier just so that it's not on top of the mass
Why not push it,
testing?
why not push it to the 26th?
Right,
Well, that's
Oh,
graduation
yeah.
and
Oh,
So
then
here's the thing: is
yeah.
we
End of school.
ran into a jam this year because we planned a meeting on the prom date, and we had some groups that could not attend because it was a prom. So
have a prom then
we have a prom on the 5th.
on the 5th.
Yeah. And the 6th.
So why don't we make it June 12th and June 20th? To have a week apart.
Right.
Like,
Keep
is
the
that-
20th as tentative.
Okay, let's keep the 20th as tentative and make it Wednesday, June 12th.
So you moved my 20th to move is gone. So I can't say anything about 20th. Right. That's what I'm saying. Cause I was going to say have tentative be the 12th, but you're moving the 5th to the 12th. So my point is gone.
Correct.
Yep, and we know when the proms are on the
Very
same night?
next day.
Oh, there's an-
Yeah.
okay.
East is the next day.
All right. Any other concerns? So it's 2 scheduled meetings per month, 12th and 20th. Yeah. All right. Okay.
We should do this together each time. I think.
Yes.
Do it out front, do it with everybody's calendar. Yep, work session. Yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Is that correct? For the calendar? We didn't make it yet. So I need a motion for item 15B. Meredith, second. Okay. Matthew Bauman. All right. Questions, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay.
Allison, let's look at this together in a moment.
Is it 18 or 19, right?
Can I make a motion to reconsider number 9, letter C?
9C.
We pulled it separate before.
Well, it's already been approved now.
Can you make a motion to reconsider once it was approved?
I don't know.
I think I believe you have to wait till the next meeting. I don't know if you can do it by Robert's rules in the same meeting. I'm not sure, though.
Which you concerned, Alex?
I'd like to just table it. I'd like to change my vote and table it until we have that other discussion as part of this. This is part of that other discussion. We pulled something else off the agenda to
Yeah.
have a discussion, and now this should have been with that. And I apologize. I didn't see the connection when we first did it.
My only concern with that is that there possibly could be CSE dates already scheduled for our student services office. So
maybe we
if
can have a
anything,
discussion
can
in
we
the back about.
quick
amend
question.
that just
So
to pull
we
that?
approved it, okay, but in the future, can we amend it so that we can include additional staff to that list? In other words, let's just say, and this is not the case, parent members, if we wanted to add a third parent member a month from now, can we do that? We have a
Yes.
motion to.
Yes.
So if we wanted to add additional people down the road, I guess we could, you know?
You know what? I hate to do this, but can I motion to go back into exec and then come back out?
Sure, we could do that. I need a motion a second. Okay, Meredith, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll be right
So that
back.
we don't have to dance.
Yeah. I know. Pulled him out, right. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
What's that?
I did. Oh, my goodness. Oh, is that a firm?
Oh, I think it got cold in here. Yes, so now we're going to be, now we're all caught up. So now we're going to be on 19 if there is one.
So I need a motion to come back into open session. Stephanie Volpe, second by Alex Picarillo. All right, any questions, concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. All right, so we are back into open session and we are on item 19, contracts. Page 43. Okay, I need a motion to approve consent agenda A through Q. Stephanie Volpe, second by Matthew Bauman. Questions or concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Item 20 is we have consent agenda A through D, which is donations. Any motion, please? All right, Slattery, second by Ms. Lycernia. Questions or discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
Thank you for those donations.
Item 21 is policies with second reading of a handful of policies. See them on the agenda, 1900, 5151, 6700, 6760, 6900, and 9170. Any motion? All right, Ms. Slattery, second. Ms. Pickowitz. Questions or discussions?
I have one question. I'm sorry, Rob.
No problem.
It's on 1900.
Mhm.
I don't have it in front of me, so I'm just going to go off memory for a second. It says something along the lines of that, we're encouraging parents to do X, Y, Z at home or something along those lines. I'm very hesitant to tell people how to raise their children. I don't want to have a policy that says you need to do something at home when, yes, I think it would be great if everybody helped with homework and I think it would be great if everybody was involved, but we're putting a policy that says you kind of have to. I don't know what I meant to ask before, but I've been so busy that I haven't had a chance. And I don't have it in front of me if anybody has it. Okay. Also, was this done by the policy committee? Are they still meeting or is this just being done from the state?
Mike, you're in the policy committee. Will you call?
These were policies that Ms. Sadowski had recommended and worked with the committee a while back to edit them, to update some of them. And
Okay.
we did the first reading a couple of meetings ago, the first reading of these policies. So this would be the second and adoption.
Okay.
Can we table that? Yeah. We'll reread it.
Just we'll get a printout and
Okay.
just to make sure it's clear.
All right, so I would need a motion to remove policy 1900 from 21A. All right, Sabrina, second. Meredith. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, so policy 1900, second reading is tabled. I do have a motion. I need a motion to approve second reading of the adoption of these policies with the exception of 1900. Alex Picarillo, second. Stephanie Volpe. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. So Chris, if you could just make a note, 1900, if we get the information to the board and then maybe put the policy on for the next one.
And maybe allow the policy to reflect a little bit more about of what our resolution says that we're sending up to Albany about parental involvement and what we'd like to see parental involvement be in our community. Something along those lines.
Would
But
you
maybe it's a different
revise
policy.
some of the language,
Yeah.
maybe that.
Yeah, we'll get together and we'll all look at it together.
Item 22 is the Committee on Special Education. We have consent agenda A and B. Any motion? Matthew Bauman, second. Meredith Volpe. Questions or discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Monthly reports. I don't believe there's been any Board of Education subcommittee meetings. Meredith?
So nothing to report, but did we determine an actual drop dead date that we're going to have our new people for these? Because usually it's like July 1st starts the.
Yeah, it's item board discussions, item B.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I gotcha.
All right, item 24, public comment. I'm guessing it's a no. All right. All right, 24B, discussion items, board committee applications. Okay, I'll open it up. Stephanie, you brought this up last time. Was it pertaining to deadlines and dates as to when?
It was that, it was, do we need to have the people that worked on it last year reapply? Are we doing that again? Are we putting out, I think we need to put out a bigger net again because there was issue with people not coming to the meetings, even though we filled them.
Mhm.
So I wanted to open that up for discussion.
Okay.
Sorry, I can't see and read at the same time.
So last year, the procedure was that everybody had to reapply if a one-year term. The applications came in. We asked them for a first, second, and third choice. Okay, and then the board actually broke out people into groups based upon the strengths for each category.
So we had such a great turnout in two of our committees that I was on.
Mhm.
That I would love to see those same people roll over because we have momentum, especially with the legislative forum. The budget advisory committee was a bunch of experts.
Yeah, I mean,
So we didn't even ask them though, because we don't, I didn't know what was going to come of this discussion. So
Yeah, so that would be the decision of the board. Is it that they apply? We could, if the board chooses to, we could put the same people on the same committees.
I would suggest to do that only because we had such success in those two committees specifically. The other ones as well did well, but also I think in certain situations we need to expand the net just because we did lose people and that took away from people who wanted to be on those committees.
Yeah, Mr. Attorney? I would suggest, I don't want to just presume these people want to be on these committees. Maybe they do, but at the minimum, maybe what we should do is have Allison email all the prior members to say, if you're still interested in being on the committee, you need to let us know, or and then maybe they don't need to fill the application out again. But we should get some affirmative response from that they want. We can't just point them and they say, I moved out of the district, a month ago. So I think you need something from them individually. Allison, you did that last year. You did reach out to them.
Yes.
Okay.
Would you only send it to the people that were showing up?
I would send to anybody we approved.
So you'd send it to the people
So
that weren't
yeah,
showing up?
that I agree with what Matt's saying.
How
Then
do
we
you
would
know
have
who
to
that
have
is?
people apply again.
Well, they
Just right. Yeah. No, you're bringing up. That's a good point because you don't want the same people getting rolled in that didn't show up.
You could also end up with someone who didn't apply last year because of a circumstance and could be an expert out there. And now this year, it's a year later, they want to apply. And we're saying, well, we're going to keep the people we had last year. And it could be some argument that, well, they're trying to keep me off a committee because they're only going to keep the people that they had and they like. I think.
All right. So we go back
up to them each year.
Open up to everybody.
Can we set a due date for that application? Do
Yes.
you have one?
Yep. We can set one.
Yes.
We can set it right now.
To deal with the no-shows, should we have alternates or should we be more strict instead of?
No, we agreed last year that the practice should be is
But
they
we didn't
miss
fill them.
consecutive meetings, that
didn't
we had the
fill them.
ability to remove them and put somebody on.
Yeah, we didn't do that. So how do we make that? Should we elect alternates?
I think we have in the past two alternates.
We didn't do it this time, but
Yeah.
I don't know the
I
solution
mean,
to it.
what
because
we can do is if a person doesn't show up for consecutive meetings without good reason, we can go back to the list that, Allison has and make a phone call and say, look, a position opened up, you'd be willing to take it. I thought we did that a couple of times last year. Yeah.
I don't remember doing it, but that's not that we didn't. I hate to have people rejected who wanted to work on the committee and they were so successful this year, our committees, that, I'd rather more. So
I would say if the same applications come in and it's a person that is
Right. Yeah,
consistently not showing up, we just don't put them
Okay.
on that committee.
All right.
So we okay with that? I think what we did last year, we used the end of August and then the first meeting in September, we appointed the people, right? Is that what we did? Is everybody okay with that? So the deadline would be August 30th, right? August 30th, right? Yeah. Well,
And then we'll put it out on social media on Sachem, so everybody knows we're accepting applications.
okay.
Any other discussion on that topic? All right, next one is,
Yes, on the committees.
yes.
I have something that I forgot to ask to be a resolution because we've been doing so much that I would love to have a charge of a committee. Do we discuss that now?
No, charges would be once we form the committee,
All right, goodbye.
but I would hold on, edit as a future discussion item possibly. We get the, yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Rob, just,
Yeah.
do the board members want to align themselves to committees now? Is that something that we want to pick and choose or stay in the same or?
Well, we could do that. I mean, there was a section that we kind of missed back on the health and safety committees where I added Dr. Pelletieri to add appropriate spots for members to sit on those committees. So we could align people now. If you want to volunteer for Budget Advisory Committee, we can go through each one. Yep. Alex?
I'd like to be back on the health and safety and save team.
I would,
Is that
yeah, I
what we
would,
call it?
too. Yeah. Yeah, so
Yes.
let's go through the subcommittees first. And we'll come
Patty
back
runs a
to-
very strict, you have
Yeah.
to be there.
Yeah.
It
Oh, you
starts on
well, you
time.
haven't attended one of my meetings either, so I align with Patty on that. Yeah.
All right, so Budget Advisory Committee?
Yeah, I mean, been doing it the past couple of years. I'll take it. If nobody wants it.
Okay.
I'll do it with Vinny.
Okay.
He's okay with that.
Yep.
Sal, you got that? Liaisons? Okay, Legislative Committee? Stephanie and Meredith?
We have unfinished business, so I
Okay.
think it would be.
All right, so is it just the two? Vinny, were you on that too?
He was on it, but
I was on, I mean, I'll be a third
Can
or
you
an
be an
alternate.
alternate?
I'll be an
Yeah.
alternate, just, but yeah. Yeah.
All right. The,
Yeah, Meredith and Stephanie will lead. I'll be sort of the alternate and, yeah, pinch
Okay.
hitter if we need it.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
The Advisory, Citizen Advisory Audit Committee? Laura? Mike?
That's financial stuff.
Yes.
I want to be on that, but I don't have to be primary if other
wanna-
people want to be on it, but I would like to be on that.
There's two people on it now.
Okay,
Two
can I
board-
can I
you wanna
put
go
on
on
that
one
too? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Laura and Mike. And then you can add Stephanie to that. The Sage and Policy Committee, Mike, I see you. Meredith? Sabrina? Okay. Okay. I personally, I sat on the Save Committee.
You've been on every one.
I sat on the Save Committee and the district-wide safety committee. I'd like to remain on that if possible. And so. Yeah. So, Safe Committee and Health and Safety, district-wide safety committee, I have Alex, Matthew, you on that? Safety Committee? All right. I'd like to be on that committee as well, if
So who's on
possible.
there? AP.
Laura?
LS.
All right, so it's 4.
Rob, you're on it?
Yeah,
Well.
Matthew, Alex,
I have Alex, Laura, Rob,
and Matthew.
Thank you.
All right, Diversity Task Force, or Diversity Committee. Sabrina, Stephanie, Meredith. 3. Anybody else? And Alex,
I heard Erin
I'm
runs
not-
a pretty good committee also, so just, she hasn't talked a lot this meeting, so just to make sure.
And Alex, I'm not on that page. What's the last committee? Curriculum Council. All right, Board of Liaisons for Curriculum Council. All right, Laura Slattery. All right, Sabrina,
I stacked my deck a little.
alternate. Okay, we had Meredith as an alternate. Okay. All right, next item is the NISBA resolutions. In your packet is the amended forms in the proper format. Allison put it together based on some revisions and changes and some of the same language from last year. These are the deadlines coming up in what, 2 days?
Yes.
Friday. Okay. So any concerns or questions about what's presented here? I kind of think we got this in our email. We kind of went through this. Mike, you amended the school safety and security.
I did. I think I'd mentioned the last meeting that between Sabrina and Jim Kieran, they had mentioned that had not passed. So I did modify that.
So
I
reflected
did
that
bounce
there's
it
no
off. I did
cost
bounce
to
this off Jim as well. He was happy with it. So if you're listening, Jim, thank you. I think it's good to go the way it is now. addresses the concerns that were raised because the cost was the concern, right? Yeah.
So Chris, the only thing I'd ask is that if we could put this on our website as to what we're approving tonight, so the community has an opportunity to take a look at this. Okay, so it's full disclosure. Is everybody okay with that?
I had mentioned one the other day, and I don't see it in this packet, but we talk about unfunded mandates. I'd love to see one that says, be it resolved that the New York State School Boards Association vehemently opposes any mandates that is not approved by the legislation, so that if the Senate and the Assembly and the governor is signing off on something and voting and debating, then we can hold that person accountable. But if they put together a fake bogus committee like the mascot advisory, say it again.
No, it's vaguely sounding familiar, Sabrina or Meredith,
There may have been another school that
another
submitted it.
school
Okay.
put that forward.
In case they don't,
yeah.
I don't know if this is something that maybe we can get written up as quickly before next Friday and approve it now.
This 2
This
days.
Friday.
Can we approve it? Are we able to approve it without the writing here? And then we'll trust Chris and Mike to write it before that? Just in case another school does not bring it forward. I just really think, like, we always talk about unfunded mandates, but then we have an opportunity here to, can we support something, and can we
Allison, is it
put something
possible
in
to take a
front?
look at what was proposed last year to see if
Yeah,
there's one
I
that-
have the list of everybody's submissions from last year, so I can look through there. And if maybe I'll shoot you an email back and forth if we can get some
What we could
wording
do is
together.
we could piggyback on
Okay.
one that might be written and maybe
That's
even
fine.
amend it a little bit.
Perfect.
rather than
That's fine.
rewriting.
I'll put something together and make sure
And
that
as
the
far as
board sees
approving
it.
it, we could do it by means of a leaning if we have to.
Yeah.
70?
Well, then I have one that I want to add that I know other school districts put in, and it's about giving school lunch. And it was something I meant to bring up, and with everything else we've been doing, it slipped my mind. So there are other school districts that have this resolution that are presenting it to NISBA. If we could jump on that.
Could you check to see if there's one on that one as well?
No.
So Allison, you'll
Universal free meals. Universal free meals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was brought up at our legislative forum too, with the Suffolk County one. And it had support of everyone. And I don't know how it slipped my
are we able
radar,
to check
but
into
it
that
did.
and get back to the board tomorrow?
I think it's Ulster County School District was the one but don't quote me. I have it home, but I didn't think we could put it on this
Yeah,
quickly.
we could piggyback on it. We could
Okay.
actually take the information and we could actually put our name on it.
Okay,
as
so
well.
then that would be a legislative
For
forum
access, yeah.
charge.
Yeah. So what'll happen is that you could actually reach out to the person. I forget what her name is. I remember talking to her on the side of the road at Bell Parkway last year, last minute on the phone, because that was the only way to get a signal. Yeah. Oh, you were 8 miles behind me on the Bell Parkway, if you remember, Chris. So the thing is that if there's a similarity between what we want, she'll ask us straight out. You just want to piggyback on plain views. You just want to piggyback on. So we can find out if there's one that's submitted. We can call her and see if there's one that's submitted that we can piggyback on.
Then Allison, work with Jagger for our syntax too. We'll create a link that says click here to see Sachem's board resolutions packet. All right, and we'll put them all in there.
Do we have to do a leaning now or when?
So we'll wait for the information to come back from Allison tomorrow. If there's
Okay.
similar ones, if everybody's okay with it, what we'll do is we'll put our name on it or touch base with.
Can we, I mean, the unfunded mandate is a no-brainer and we should have put it on here prior, but again, we've been busy.
Mhm.
And then the universal lunch is also,
It would have-
so
it would-
can we lean now so that we don't have to, or it has to be
Well, you
written?
have to see the language.
Yeah, okay.
In it. I mean, we could do a leaning via email and say, is everybody okay with this? But the thing is, you'd have to see the language on it, and we have 2 days.
Yeah, and I'm okay also if we can't get it together by then, if we know other districts are bringing it,
Yeah.
because then when we meet them at the dinner at NISBA or conference or whatever, we can join in. So I definitely know there's another district that has the free lunch.
Okay, last item is the do not harm policy. Yeah, and Mr. Scott, I asked if we could discuss this, and I don't want to, we're not going to spend a lot of time on it tonight. I just wanted to apprise the board of the fact that we have begun those discussions. I've discussed with other districts. We've discussed within district. I do want to say wholeheartedly that I've spoken with leadership in SAA, our administrators, and our teachers association, and they're very concerned about having a seat at the table when we discuss this policy. And I would agree that they should be there. So again, it's not something that's going to be done overnight or done, by our August 30 meeting or whatever that is. We're going to have to, I would ask that Erin looked at this through curriculum council, work with students, staff, parents, administrators, and come back with a recommendation early next year, not in June or whatever, as the discussions we had many this year. That was not to imply that had anything to do with Erin. We probably should have done it that way last year, but didn't. So I want us to do it this way, do it right, do it early, and get out in front of it. Okay, so I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update on that.
So we're okay with that. So Erin, you'll come back to the board with a recommendation, and then Chris, you're going to bring people to the table.
Yep.
To get feedback from all of the stakeholders. Everybody's okay with that? Okay, old business, South Shore Charter update. Chris?
Thank you very much. We did receive notice that SUNY did, in fact, agree to grant South Shore their request to temporarily locate in the Sachem School District for the next 2 years. They were granted 2 years. If they do not leave Sachem for Central Islip, by the end of that 2 years, they will have their entire charter revoked, not just be told to leave Sachem School District, but they'll have the charter revoked. Correct, Chris?
Correct.
Yes. So we did receive that. That's been shared with our attorneys. We have not received anything from Board of Regents making it official at this point yet. The Board of Regents needs to sign off or kick it back to them, which is a possibility. Chris, maybe you want to give, am I saying this right in terms of we're still awaiting the Board of Regents to actually say something?
Yes, the Board of Regents, by regulation, they have 90 days in which to either approve or send it back with suggested revisions. If they do neither and don't act, then it's automatically approved at the 90-day period.
We did receive a request for, we actually received a letter. We sent them a letter saying until we have more authority from the Board of Regents, we are not going to pay anything to your institution. We sent them that letter a few weeks ago. We did receive a legal counsel letter notice back to us saying that they will seek any legal remedy they can to get those funds. And they also requested a school nurse to service our 23 students that we'll have there as well.
It's not just
all
our
students.
students.
Yeah.
It's all students.
We would bill the other
Yes.
districts to get those funds back. Correct. But so we wouldn't pay 100% of it, but we would then we'd have to hire the person and start chasing those districts to get those funds back from them.
And whenever there's a private or parochial school within our bounds, and this, for purpose of this, is considered a non-public school. For this, we have to provide what's called 912 services, which for the most part means you have to provide a nurse. And then we bill back whatever the cost of the nurse is. We would bill back all of those districts that send students to that private or parochial school. So we have received a request for a nurse. I think I understand that this still is in flux, but unlike paying the tuition, which we're going to hold off on, I think we really need to provide the nurse. I don't want to be in a position where Sachem doesn't provide a nurse and these kids don't have a nurse at the school. So I know we're in a state of flux, but I think we recommend that we provide the nurse. We're going to get our money back because we're going to bill back those other districts. But I think we ought to move forward and provide the nurse. Kids who need textbooks, we got to provide textbooks to those kids as well.
Meredith?
Is that legally how it works, that because they're temporarily housed in Sachem, even though their charter is approved in Central Islip, they're a Central Islip charter? So is that legally how it works, that we have to provide that nurse for the first 2 years, that they're temporarily here? We have confirmation on that?
Yes, we do. I mean, if ultimately the Board of Regents shuts it down, then obviously we'll have to go in another direction, but we really need to provide the nurse at this
Stephanie?
point.
is that only if there are students attending from Sachem, or it's because it's in our district?
Because it's in your district.
Okay, so what is the date for the 90 days? Do we have that date?
I think it runs from July 7th.
Okay, so 90 days from July 7th. Should we, and who hires the nurse? Sachem or they?
Sachem hires the nurse.
And then what happens to that nurse, say they don't open? Say the Board of Regents doesn't give them the permission at the 90-day mark to open. Say they say no. What happens to that nurse?
If we don't need her, we would let her go or him go.
And the contract there would be no money with us
No,
losing anything?
no.
Do we hire the nurse at the last minute? Because how do we, I don't like that we're in flux, that we don't even know if the school's really going to open.
I think you have to, I think you really have to assume that it is. Yeah, if history holds true, the Board of Regents has historically
Okay.
just rubber stamped these applications.
Gotcha.
So, it's a rare day when they're going to say no. I mean, this is a little bit of a different situation since some things went on here that were a little bit different and we didn't get notice proper. So there's some issues here. But at the end of the day, I believe the Board of Regents is going to approve it.
Okay, and then what about if the parents find out this is a temporary location, which I still don't think they know, that have enrolled their children, that their kids are going to be moving at such a young age to another building in a year or two? Like, what if they decide to pull their kids? So that's why I was against paying the tuition, because if the kids aren't going to attend, we don't get that money back.
Well, we haven't, we held off on paying the tuition. We got
Right.
we got a nasty gram back from a
I
lawyer
saw
saying
that,
they're going to sue
yeah.
us. So, I mean,
It's such a weird situation to be in, because we still have to see if, and I know you say they rubber stamp them, but there is a shred of hope that the community reached out and that matters, that they shouldn't open here. I don't understand why they just didn't wait to open next year in Central Islip for the benefit of the children. You're going to move. Right.
It's a
Well,
business.
It's a business. Exactly. It's about the money. It's to get the money from here.
Matthew?
I'm not sure if Stephanie covered what I was going to say. So have we reached out to those 20, is it 23 families or 23 kids?
Right now, it's
23 families, Michelle? 23 students altogether?
So have we reached out to those families to inform them about the shysters that these people are? And that's what they are.
Well,
they're shysters.
Okay. Yeah. You're
I like that
Chris,
word,
going to help
shyster.
me out here or?
Yeah, I think we have to be careful on how we go about that sort of thing. We've used that phrase before about interfering with other people's business. I just think we have to be careful about how we go about that.
So we have not contacted families of anyone enrolled there. I have a plan that I'd like to propose to the board, and that would be that I would have my I can break down the schools that they would have gone to, those who registered with us. We haven't had them all register with us.
I have their addresses from the invoice that they sent.
Okay, so we can reach out to them, invite them to our schools, invite them to see the product that we have in our buildings, invite them to see the programs over the summer. But this is highly unusual, right? We don't typically invite people in to see our program. What you're asking us to do is to specifically earmark or target members of this community to try to get them. They want to go elsewhere, and we want to bring them here. We don't do this around kids that go to private schools, other private schools, things like that. So I want to make sure we're on solid ground in terms of reaching out to are we violating any of their privacy rights or anything like that? That family made a decision, and now we're going to go seek them out because of that decision, Chris. And anything?
Yeah, maybe we should talk offline about that.
Okay.
Actually, Meredith.
Oh, yes, sir. The only question I have is with these 23 students, do we have placeholders for them just in case the school doesn't open, or they realize this might not be the best placement
Yeah,
for them, or they find out that this is temporary and then they will be in CI in a year or two from now? Do we have placeholders? Because my fear too is that we're going to fill our kindergarten classrooms and first grade classrooms, and then we might get 5, 6, 7, 8 of these kids back within a month, 2 months, half year, and then all of a sudden we're going to have kindergarten classrooms that are at our board goal now are going to exceed it. So I just want to make sure that we're keeping that in mind too, because that tends to happen with charter schools is that, they get, promised everything and then they realize this isn't the best and my son is or daughter is not going to school with the kids on their block and that whole story could happen. I just want to make sure that we're not going to then, these kids. So just to earmark what buildings they would go into to kind of have a placeholder if
Yep.
possible. I know.
We've done that to a certain extent. I know, for example, I believe 4 from Tamarack, I believe. And so we know that their K enrollment number is actually lower than usual. So we'd be safe there. But Ms. Trombetta does all that. She just stepped out for a moment. So I can have that conversation with her, certainly, in terms of yes, Michelle, you gave me that. Yeah. So we have the numbers in terms of each school. Luckily, it's only K1 right now. And but we should be able to take a look at that and act accordingly. And we'd always welcome them, obviously.
Meredith?
So what if in the rare occasion, the Board of Regents does not approve this? They say, you know what, this is a temporary location. These poor kids are going to be now put on a 25-minute bus ride every day of their lives, and actually has some common sense about this and says, maybe we shouldn't approve this. The 90 days is like early October. School starts early September. So what would happen to these children?
Well, I would think that if they were going to make that decision, they have 90 days. They don't have to wait the 90 days. If they're going to make that decision, they should do it now. In other words, they should do it in July. They should do it in early August. If they're going to make that decision, I can't see them doing it, at the end of the 3-month period. They would do it earlier.
Okay.
Otherwise, they'd be foolish.
And I also understand that, everybody has a right to choose where they want to attend school, and it's not our place to tell anybody where to go or what to do, especially with their children. But I do feel that we do need to reach out to these families and just inform them that it is temporary, and it could be next year that the centralized location happens, and then these children will be on a bus for 25 minutes every day, each way. Or it could happen in 2 years, but it's going to happen, because I don't think that a business is telling you, hey, we're going to move in 2 years. I think that would be responsible of us to make sure that these parents of these 4, 5, and 6-year-olds know that their kids in a couple of years will be sitting on that bus ride should they choose to stay within that charter school after it moves out of our district, because it is definitely moving out of our district.
Alex?
Have we had any opportunity to speak with Roger Tillis, who is the Board of Regent who represents us? Have we had any conversation with him at all? Does he respond? Is he like the governor where we just kind of write letters and he doesn't respond to us? I mean, he's supposed to be like our person, but have we had any luck with him? Because I know he goes to that dinner every year, but I've never heard him ever come here or.
Yeah, I can't throw him under the bus in regards to this at all. I've had many conversations with Assemblyman Doug Smith, for example, amongst others, and he has told me that I know he's the chair, right, for education, and I know he works with the Board of Regents, and so I know he was carrying that torch for us to a certain extent, but I can't say that. Certainly, I have not spoken to Roger Tillis. I don't know.
If we reached out to you, like if you called him, would he respond, do you think?
He's pretty responsive from what I have seen, my history with Regent Tillis, so I will certainly can attempt to do that.
Chris, I just have a quick question. We have a policy in place here in Sachem that any type of private transportation has to be done by a certain date, right? So it helps us budget for the upcoming year. Okay, have we had requests for transportation yet? And if not, we're past that deadline.
The deadline is April 1st, but I believe if someone is new to the district, which I don't know if any of these families are new to the district or the school was new, but I think those are extenuating circumstances. Can we deny any of those cases?
We would have to take a look at it. I'm not sure.
Can we take a look at that policy? Because if we're past that deadline and we didn't budget for that transportation, We do it, all the time. We get a late request for a child that wants to go to a St. John the Baptist, and we don't have room on the bus, and so we deny it. So the question is with the whole transportation, is we didn't budget, $80,000 or $100,000 for busing next year. Requests had to come in by a certain date.
But as Michelle indicated, there might be an exception where you have X amount of days from a certain date if the school, officially opens at a date later than that. So there may be other considerations that we have to look at.
Chris, you'll give us an opinion on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Good point.
All right. Any other? I'm sorry, Mike, to say something?
So I just wanted to point out to the board, I'm sure you all realize, but I'm hoping some people are listening that, so far now we're up to 23 students at $15,000 apiece. That's $345,000 that we did not budget for with no actual cost savings offsets because we're not reducing, there's not enough of them and they're spread out enough that we're not reducing any sections.
Yes.
Now we're going to provide a nurse, even though we're going to get some of that cost back, and then we may have a transportation issue. This school this year is probably going to cost this district $600,000 that we have no revenue offsets for. So that's the damage that's being done unanticipated that we had no chance to plan for or even defend ourselves against. So thank you, Board of Regents.
Any other comments? Okay. Chris, you're going to reach out to Regent Tillis?
I am.
Okay. All right. And then Chris, you're going to his legal opinion on the transportation. I guess we'd take a leaning on the nurse, right? We have to approve that, or is that?
No, I mean, we do that as a matter of, ultimately, when you hire somebody, the board will approve the nurse.
Okay.
So this is something where we post a job and we interview and we go through the whole thing. We're not taking somebody out of a building that we already have. This is going to be a new person specifically for this. That's full-time with benefits in the pension system, the whole, okay.
If I can just say, this person's going to become a member of the Sachem Central Nurses Association, so we'll have to have conversations with the president and just make sure, just like we had a nurse who was a Sachem Nurses Association member in that bargaining unit that was at St. Joe's in the private school, they also, sometimes folks do have an interest in going somewhere else, but that person would come in with the least seniority for the hire.
Okay. Stephanie?
Are we making a decision to contact the families yet, or is that still going to wait? Okay.
We're
Okay.
in the back room.
I have one more quick question.
Meredith?
Sorry, Regent Tillis I know he came here for a superintendent's conference day, and I know he is accessible to the district. Is he accessible to the community? Can community members reach out to him and tell them their displeasure with this entire situation?
Yes.
That would be great.
I know
if
I
people
shared
start reaching out to him
on social media a few of the regions, I don't know, they had the president, whatever the wording is of the top two, and then obviously our local that people could email. And I know some people have. I could reach out to them. I haven't gotten anything back. Again, I emailed as a parent, not as a board member. But I could see if anybody else.
So it certainly wouldn't help if the entire Sachem community started to reach out to the Board of Regents.
It wouldn't hurt.
And then if the nurse, we have to approve the nurse. So when St. Joseph's closed, that nurse was part of us and he or she came back to us. Would this nurse, if this didn't go through, let's say they started early September, but then the Board of Regents decided to close them in September, what would we do with that nurse?
We would have to abolish a position and excess that person because the person's the least senior. When we had the instance with St. Joseph's, we actually wound up increasing our FTEs over the course of time, but we would have to decide to excess.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions about the South Shore Charter? Okay. Future discussion items. Future discussion items on the board? Oh, yeah, we could, South Shore Charter.
The
Stephanie?
charges for the committee. So
Okay.
we have to also, I don't know, Meredith, how quickly we want to pick a date for the forum, because that was going to be in the fall. Right. So
Once we have committees.
Right.
Charge committees.
Are we picking a date before we, before, The committee will pick the date? Okay.
So we could add charges, Board of Education Subcommittee charges as a future agenda item. Okay, and then I would encourage board members to, think about ideas or suggestions as to what they'd like to see these committees work on. Mr. Reynolds?
So back in April, I sent an email out about having presentations around curriculum. So I think that's on the radar screen. So I know there's a lot, but let's
It
figure
is
out how
a lot. We want to do it throughout the year,
Yep,
actually.
yeah,
Yep.
sort of spread out throughout the year.
Yep.
So I just want to make sure that that's still on the table.
Any other future discussion items? None? All right. Again,
Not that it's a future discussion item, but in light of what happened this week, and our thoughts and prayers obviously go out to the family in the other district in Newfield. But I did ask, and I think it's important for parents to know, because even as a parent and a board member, I didn't know. We do have AEDs on our fields during our summer workouts, and all of our coaches obviously are trained in them, and they know where they are. So I thought it was just important for the community to know that.
and Allison, did a letter go out from the Board of Ed, a letter of sympathy? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I had drafted a letter on behalf of the board and the entire district and Sachem community and sent it over because unfortunately in our situations, we've had received letters from neighboring districts, expressing their sympathy. So we did the same in this instance.
Could you share with the letter with us?
Absolutely, sure.
I haven't seen it myself, so.
Sure.
Okay, any other future discussion items? Okay, our next scheduled meeting is July 26th. At this particular point in time, I need a motion to go into exec session to discuss personal updates of a staff member being known to the Board of Education, as well as appointments for our chair positions. All right, Meredith, second by Alex. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you.